So I'm flying back from a speaking engagement at a conference, and as we're pulling into the gate at San Diego Airport, the flight attendant is doing her wrap-up announcements, and she says, "We know you have a choice when flying, and we thank you for your continued loyalty to American Airlines." Now, her comment caught my attention because I had just been speaking about how companies develop standout brands that inspire customer loyalty. Her comment also caught my attention because American Airlines should not be thanking me for being a loyal customer, because I'm not. Now, I have been on 11 flights in the last 4 weeks, and 9 of them have been on American. So I look like a loyal customer, but I am not loyal to that brand. I am handcuffed to it. And those handcuffs are made of bright, shiny platinum. You see, I've been flying American enough over the years that I have earned the esteemed status of being a lifetime platinum frequent flyer. And so for that, I get rewards like the ability to sit in a seat where I can actually put my laptop on the tray table and use it without having to contort my body into some strange position in order to type. So when I can, I fly American, but I'm not willing to pay much of a premium to do so. I certainly don't go out of my way to fly American, and I don't feel any sort of emotional connection to that brand. And isn't that what brand loyalty is all about? So if loyalty programs like American's Advantage don't inspire real customer loyalty, what does? How do some companies manage to create meaningful, valuable, sustained relationships with customers, and others don't? Those are the kinds of questions that I looked into when I was researching and writing my book, What Great Brands Do. And I looked at a range of brands out there, some of the world's greatest brands like, Apple, Starbucks, Amazon, Zappos. I also looked at some smaller companies that were developing very powerful, profitable brands like Shake Shack or Chobani, even Innocent. What I discovered is that great brands share one defining, distinctive characteristic. They conceive of their brands as complete strategic platforms. Instead of thinking about their brands as external images to promote, like a logo or a tagline or a program, they use their brands as management tools to fuel, align, and guide everything that their organizations do. And they operationalize their brands as the most critical way of managing and growing their business. Now, I also discovered that this approach to brand building is not all that common. In fact, according to the Association of National Advertisers, who surveyed chief marketing officers and brand directors at a representative group of companies, 64% said that the brands at their companies don't influence the decisions at their companies. 64%. Now, these brands may be informing communication strategies and promotional activity like a loyalty program, but little else. And so that means that nearly 2/3 of companies out there, millions of dollars are being poured into advertising and marketing a brand that may or may not be aligned with the business strategy. And so the full business value of the brand goes unrealized, and the brand really fails to connect with its customers. So how do great brands avoid these shortcomings? Well, I discovered that great brands share some common characteristics, some principles that they live out. One of them is that great brands start inside, meaning great brands start building their brands by developing a strong internal corporate culture. Instead of seeking to define or redefine their brands with a branding campaign or let's refresh our logo, companies like IBM, Zappos, Basecamp, etc., they know that they need to start inside by cultivating a strong culture that's based on their brand mission and values. And then they need to drive that culture and express that in their customer experience. So they're often saving communications and marketing and promotion for later and starting inside. Another principle that I discovered is that great brands avoid selling products. And I came across this because when I looked at brands like Starbucks, they're not really selling coffee, right? American Express isn't really selling credit cards, and Apple really isn't selling cool gadgets. What each of those brands is offering, community, significance, life enhancement, are far more valuable and meaningful and differentiating than any particular product, feature, or technology. So great brands seek to form emotional connections through an emotional appeal with people and avoid selling products. The principle that I wanted to spend some time sharing with you today, though, is great brands never have to give back. Now, this is not intended as a challenge to what June shared about how giving back and focused generosity can help a leader get ahead. I'm talking about a way to design your business so that you build a great brand the way great brands do. And I discovered it when I was looking at companies like this one, who's known for making turbine engines and trains, talking about Mother Nature. And then this company, when I know this slide looks familiar to you, an apparel company telling people, don't buy our product. Or a restaurant chain doing something to help people in the recession beyond just lowering their prices. What I discovered is that there seemed to be a new movement in this area that's known as corporate social responsibility. What these brands seemed to be doing wasn't like giving back and then feeling good. In fact, what they were doing had very little, or seemed to have very little, to do with giving back at all. For example, Patagonia. Patagonia's brand mission is to create the best product, do no unnecessary harm, and use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So they actually designed their business to fulfill that mission. And one of those design elements is a program called Footprint Chronicles. Footprint Chronicles, for every product that Patagonia makes, documents how the product was made, from the raw materials through the design and manufacturing process all the way to where we as customers buy the product. And so Footprint Chronicles actually is creating value for the different groups that are involved with their business. For us as customers, Footprint Chronicles is great because we can actually see, is Patagonia living up to their mission, or is it just, a bunch of words, right? And we can decide whether or not we want to do business with Patagonia based on our assessment of that. So it creates value for customers. It also creates value for people who are inside Patagonia, because the company has made a public commitment and a real corporate priority to focus on their supply chain and the impact of it. And so everyone in the organization can work together with focus and alignment, and there's not a lot of the bureaucracy and inefficiency that you normally see in corporations. So it creates value for employees. Footprint Chronicles also creates value for Patagonia shareholders, because the program has driven the company to optimize their supply chain, to make their manufacturing processes more efficient, which lowers costs, which investors like. And Footprint Chronicles creates value for the community and society and culture as a whole because it does reduce the company's impact on the environment. So Footprint Chronicles is creating value, actually shared value, value that every group that's involved with their business can actually share in. So, and I should say that Footprint Chronicles is only one of the many ways that Patagonia is creating shared value. They're constantly exploring the societal and cultural relevance of their brand to identify new ways to create value. So what this means is that Patagonia is not doing corporate social responsibility, CSR. They're doing CSV. They're creating shared value. And like other great brands, when you create shared value, it's not about giving back. Now don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with giving back. It's good to give back. But I think great brands seem to be asking themselves, why merely do good when we can be great? So they're looking at designing or redesigning their business models so that they're creating shared value. So the things that they do to make a positive social impact are not responsibilities, things to kind of check off a list, but they're ways to achieve relevance with the different groups that are involved with their business. And they don't do it out of a sense of obligation, like, oh, maybe we probably should do something like this, everyone does it, but as an opportunity to create more value for the people who are involved with their business. So Patagonia never has to give back. Other great brands never have to give back when they're designing their businesses around their brand mission and their brand values. There are quite a few other principles that I discovered that great brands share, and I just don't have time to share them with you today, but I encourage you to check out my book, What Great Brands Do. It outlines them. Some of them I think you'll find kind of surprising. Great brands ignore trends, and then great brands commit and stay committed. But I want to say that, all of this research has led me to conclude that it would be wrong to understand that great brands achieved their success through some, brilliant marketing campaign or creative advertising, good timing, or just plain luck. When you look at what these companies have done, they've implemented specific techniques that have elevated brand building from a niche marketing function to the core driver of their business. And that is what has turned them into industry icons. Thanks.